Oh, we're live. Let's play our countdown. All right, on Labor Day, WWE put in 3 hours of labor. Almost, not quite, 2 hours, 45 minutes of Raw in Paris with rambunctious, satisfied, enthusiastic crowd. I have mixed feelings on the crowd, but WWE kind of turned it into one of the stories of the last couple nights. And I want to start with that because I don't want to be the curmudgeon who's like, hey, people are having a great time and it's great enthusiasm for the brand and the wrestlers. So it's on for whatever I'm about to say. All in all, this is good. My question is it something they should be celebrating as much as they are? Because they're not in every instance, but it's coming across as sort of like we're just here to make ourselves part of the show. And this has been a discussion point for a while on these overseas shows. Rich, where are you on that? I mean, I like it now and then, no question about it. But I just want to, before I throw to you, say this: I don't want every crowd every week in the United States to be like this either. I want crowds to just sort of be okay with observing the show and reacting to the story being told, as opposed to seeing how much attention they can get from wrestlers. And by the way, one more parenthetical, and then I really will throw to you. I thought it was really sweet what they did for AJ Styles, and I want to exclude that because that I thought was really cool. Go ahead.
Okay, so the only thing, and we talked about this a little bit during the roundtable for the PLE,
yeah.
The only thing I will appreciate is the fact that they mentioned that they sold out and sold more than Taylor Swift's concert, and it's not for the reason that you think. One thing, for those of you who don't know, in Europe, there are laws in countries against what we call ticket touting, and there are laws against what you can say is basically price gouging by Ticketmaster and other outlets to force prices to be the inflated numbers they are. In fact, I put up an article on Sunday that reflected folks had an easier time to fly to Paris to see Taylor Swift during her concert because it was cheaper to fly to Paris, stay in a hotel for 3 days, and get third-level seats than it was for them to get tickets in Kansas City, Missouri. And so that shows how big Ticketmaster has had a stranglehold on U.S. concerts. I remember you and Jason talking about the last few concerts he's gone to in the past few months or even the last year. Same thing here. WWE has a group that's paying really good prices for the right to be there. And I think they've earned with their tickets and with their voice the credit they got. But I think there were times where they overstepped and they kind of went a little too far into we're going to pretend to be the best version of crowd X that we could be, with the exception, notably, like you said, of AJ Styles. And I also think the energy they showed CM Punk during that Becky Lynch promo and recalibrating Becky Lynch as a heel instead of just saying, yeah, you're awesome.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm now and then it's good. It's kind of Wade Barrett celebrating. So best crowd ever. And I would rather have the most enthusiastic crowd ever. Be more descriptive. The crowd that's most excited and engaged in our tremendous entrances, and they elaborate more, because to me, I enjoy a wrestling product more when the crowd is not just, and I want to find the right wording for this because I don't want to be misunderstood, worshiping the personalities instead of being invested in the stories that are being told. That's the only differentiation that tonight was an issue, because they didn't hijack the show. And I'll throw up a comment from Sadler Version 3. He goes, how was the crowd bad? I didn't say they were bad. They didn't do pointless chants to hijack the show, and they didn't constantly interrupt promos with chants like the UK crowds did last week. The crowd was great, in my opinion. There aren't explicit negatives. There are just an abundance of something that I think led to a longer show. And it kind of gets to the criticism of the Jey Uso ring entrance, which is it's great to be there for it, but when you see it every week on TV, you start thinking, maybe I'm going to start watching Raw 10 minutes later so I can jump past this, because, and not everybody feels this way, but I think WWE needs to cater to the majority. And I don't know that the majority are going to get the same thing out of a long Jey Uso entrance going through the song twice that people in the building are super excited to experience. And so a window into the WWE fan experience is great now and then, but if it's every week and they're kind of celebrating this, they might end up regretting, if the United States audiences emulate this even more, how much the crowd thinks, well, to please the WWE, we need to try to outdo Europe. And then what you end up doing is having you're filming an experience the fans are having instead of producing a TV show for the TV audience. It's just, again, this isn't a heavy-handed like, oh, I'm super upset about it. But because of WWE's touting of it, I'm a little worried they're creating a monster, but I probably won't think about it next week because things will just be back to normal. Or Friday on Chicago. Yeah.
Looking at it too, I also see it as when they have these events, it's better to do what they did with the AJ Styles. As I was talking to Sean Radican about it, the chants continued through the commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do the Jey Uso entrance 3 to 5 times. Have some of those happen during the commercial. Yeah. So that way it's a lot easier for the folks to kind of at home process it. It's a balance, because before WWE crowds were essentially set to be furniture for the television audience. And now it's swung the other way where it's so involved and so entertainment for the folks there to entice you to come, because they want to keep this streak of X number of places they sell out, X number of places they're selling gates. They want that in addition to the television, because now they have these deals, they feel pretty secure. So I think just finding that balance will go a long way, because I do think, like, let's say as he was tonight, Jey Uso's in the main event, or show 2 entrances. If it's him coming out like he did, a la Diamond Dallas Page, I like the fact that he was kind of like, I can't eat. I'll let them eat for me. I got to work on, I'm a little hurt right now. That's fine. But don't have it as a eat off in the main event when you already sold that your ribs are jacked up.
Let's throw up a couple more Raider comments, and then we'll move on, because there's some segments I want to talk about. A standout match from Dom and AJ, Becky and Punk really getting into it. A lot of follow-up from Clash in Paris. But first, Chris Fonner says in the chat, these crowds are becoming the next what chant. Let's see. There's another one here. Oh, Sean Plichter, who will be joining us in a minute, as a caller, said, I thought the crowd was fine, but it's overkill after a few weeks. Chris Fonner adds, it's the chronicity. The main event was borderline hijacked with chants not entirely relevant to the match. Darrell says, these crowds are good for a little while, but I'm also happy once they come back. Derek Mitchell says, I'm not going to begrudge the crowd singing all the time. There are other elements of WWE that annoy me more than crowd noise. Yes, well, don't hold us to standard that anything we bring up it has to be the worst thing for it to be worth talking about. This certainly isn't the worst thing, but it doesn't mean it's not something you can still voice and I know you're not saying that, Derek, but sometimes people apologize for having an opinion because it's not the top 5 thing that's worse in WWE, and it's like, little stuff adds up too.
And I wouldn't mind, Derek, if you threw out your top 5, because I'm very intrigued by what's kind of like grinding your gears with WWE at present.
Yes. Yep. BJF says, Sadler, I'm with you. I love these international crowds. They only go international a few times a year, so it's great to have the crowd and cultural diversity. And that's one of the points I'm making is WWE. It's more the framing of WWE, like how WWE frames it is more my issue than the crowd, especially this tonight. I mean, I don't have specific complaints about the crowd. It's more WWE almost wishing for more of this by saying, because this is the greatest crowd we ever had, and Barrett said it last night at the start of the Clash, you might be inviting fans to think this is how we're supposed to act, and we need to live up to this. And then you do end up with bloated shows that feel like it's more fans sort of self-indulgently trying to please the cult of WWE management, and they want to be praised rather than just enjoying the show for what it is. And so again, you can end up going down a road where the fans think that's right. It's about us. And I think there's more value in the crowd thinking that the stars are in the ring, not in the seats in the crowd, and we react organically to it, but we don't plan to not hijack, but just try to outdo each other constantly. Like, this isn't soccer. Like, it's one segment after another. They're fighting, they're yelling. It's not like a ball's, being kicked up a 100-yard field and the crowd sort of singing a song while there's a side out. So it's just, I think pro wrestling at its best has a different type of crowd than this. But if it goes away, that's fine. It's me sort of waving a yellow flag at WWE to just maybe pull back a little on making this the standard by which all crowds are judged.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Cool. All right, let's pause and introduce ourselves and get to the actual content of the show. I don't want to be a hypocrite here and talk about the crowd for being obsessed with themselves and WWE being obsessed with them. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Monday, September 1st, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the long-running Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter that predates websites, predates podcasts, predates Ted Turner buying WCW, all kinds of things. And predates Undertaker's career, by the way. Predates Alf, says Rich. So we're here talking Raw in the afternoon. I think we can count this the afternoon, Rich, right?
See, this is where that time travel's messing us up because I'm at 5 p.m. So I'm right at the crux of evening.
All right. Well, it is definitely afternoon here in Minnesota. But nevertheless, afternoon, evening, we are here talking about tonight's episode of Raw. They were in Paris, and it was it's kind of fun to see these shows live instead of on delay in the evening. I mean, I like mixing it up with Netflix. Netflix doesn't care when you watch, and they have a very flexible schedule. They don't have a linear schedule. So unlike USA Network and Fox, if they go overseas, they could just air it live. And so I think it's a fun change up. And it always feels different watching Raw in this atmosphere. Do you like it, Rich, or does it feel like, no, it's getting in the way of my afternoon stuff, and then I won't know what to do with myself in the evening?
I think in this particular day, it being Labor Day here in the States, it was perfect because I was off from work. I could watch it, do some housekeeping around the house, and enjoy it without the stress of how am I going to have notes for Wade if I have to do like day job stuff. So I thought it was a perfect fit.
Yeah. Well, the voice you hear is Rich Fann. He's a Pro Wrestling Torch columnist and VIP analyst. He is part of the VIP exclusive show, Everything with Rich and Wade, that drops usually on Tuesday nights. But he joins me on camera and on the post show here talking this afternoon's episode of Monday Night Raw was tonight in Paris. So we're talking about an evening show still. So we invite you, if you're watching us live on the PWTorch YouTube channel, to join in the chat. And we'll put comments up on the screen and read them for our podcast listeners as we go here. You can also email us at wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. And that, of course, applies to not just watching us live, but if you can't listen to us or watch us live, if you listen to the podcast later on delay, which is most of you, you can still be part of the show using that email, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. Send your questions and comments. We'll get to them later in the show. You can also be a live caller. The link to that is in the PWTorch Raw report that I write, and also on our Patreon page. Although I think I forgot to put it on the Patreon page. So maybe, or did I? No, I don't know. I'm all mixed up.
It looks like Sean's in there, so you must have put it on Patreon or somewhere.
Yeah,
I see Sean.
Well, I put it somewhere. I don't know. I don't know if Sean's on Patreon or the VIP site. Sean will tell us. But I might have whatever. I'll try to do it during the show if I did. But yeah, those are the ways to join us. But we appreciate everybody who is also listening. So let's get to it. Let's get back to analyzing tonight's show. CM Punk was standing in the parking garage waiting for Seth Rollins. He said there's only one entrance. And then eventually Adam Pearce told him, no, somehow Seth's in the building already. I don't know how he got in. So Punk went to the ring and said, come on out here. I'm going to hijack the show if you don't come out. And then Seth's music started right away, and Becky Lynch came out. And they had an exchange. And Becky said she's still bitter from 8, 9, 10 years ago when fans were chanting CM Punk during her matches and not respecting the work that she was doing. Punk gave her a hard time for that. She talked up her husband, and Punk said, "You have bad taste in men." They went back and forth. It got personal and intense. Seth ended up coming out, but then walking away before there's a confrontation, and then Becky slapped him around a bit. Those are kind of the high points of it. What did you think of this segment? Because one of the top things I was curious about coming out of Clash in Paris, which was Becky Lynch helping Seth, not a one-off, but like something that she'd do, but go back to her world, or is this the sign of an ongoing alliance? I still don't have that answer until she is officially added to the Vision and walks out with Heyman, Breaker, and Reed 2-3 weeks in a row. But it wasn't just a one-off in the sense that she was there to follow up on what she did last night. So what did you think of what she said and how it was presented today as a follow-up to yesterday?
I like the fact that she was the voice as the man of WWE to say, I didn't appreciate my matches being hijacked by CM Punk chants. I didn't appreciate all these things where you could have a kernel of truth, but she expanded it so wide that you're kind of like, all right, this is a little too far. Particularly where I saw someone post this on Blue Sky. Punk, as much as he's an iconoclast and does things his own way, isn't Randy Orton. Because Randy would have punted her and would have had no remorse about it.
Yeah.
Whereas Punk had that line. And so even as she's pie facing him, and then they make the announcement later that next week it's going to be in Chicago, the more they keep sending the signals, if and whenever AJ Lee shows up to even the odds, that's going to be a very exciting time, because now he'll be able to let her hopefully she's ready to kind of go promo for promo with Becky, because it's been 10 plus years. But I thought he did a really good job of explaining how he got screwed Becky did a great job from her perspective as Seth's wife to say, my super hot husband, who's better looking than all of you in the crowd, deserved to be champion, and I just enforced that. What's the big deal? I liked it. I thought that Becky being disliked, and again, to the crowd in the comment section, I thought the crowd did a great job of exacerbating how much of a heel Becky was. And instead of doing the yay, Becky saying mean things to us, they just booed the crap out of her, and I liked it.
So do you think if they go the AJ Lee Punk thing, spoiler alert, everybody wasn't following that on social media, do you think that ends up being a feud and then it's done and Becky goes back to her world, or not?
No, I think regardless of what happens, they've crossed the Rubicon and made Becky, whatever happens, now the cat's out of the bag. We already knew they were married, but that is a card he can play at any point, even if she's not in the vision. She'll watch his back and he'll watch hers.
That's actually I should be more clear with my question. Does she come out with a vision every week, or is it just kind of an ongoing thing? I'm over here doing my thing, you're over here doing your thing, but when we need each other, we're there.
Yep,
and
I think that's what it's going to be.
Are you intrigued with her being in the vision, just coming out every week?
I thought when they first made the stable, she was going to be right off the bat, because it made the most sense to me. But because they didn't do it that way, I just took it as, well, maybe they didn't want to kind of muddy the stream, so to speak. And so for me, I would love if she's in the group. I always love a good stable. I think Judgment Day's best attraction to me since its founding was that they have both men and women in the group, and leadership has kind of floated between who was the most powerful wrestler, not just the man running things, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see that dynamic as Heyman starts to craft whatever this vision is, because if we look at the future of WWE, there should be a vision as much for the men's division as there is for the women's.
Let's throw some reader comments up here, or chat comments. Chris Fonner says, not Chat Fonner, he's in the chat. This is the only way Becky may get actual heat, by aligning with the vision. I still hate that name. Darrell Freeman says, having Becky and Punk going back and forth with each other was something different, and I think they need that for the vision. Derek Hubbard says, I enjoyed the Punk Becky segment. It had an uncomfortable tenseness that elicited an emotional response from me watching on my couch. It is a great setup for AJ Lee. They laid the groundwork. There's more here. Sadler Version 3 says, Becky was a great heel here. She was a massive prick and made you want to see her come uppance. And let's see if there's another one. Nope. Okay, so those are the key ones that I highlighted as far as the response goes. I also, if we had a better idea of where the vision was going to kind of land in terms of chemistry and longevity, I'd have more of an opinion on Becky being part of it. Part of me is that could be really fun, seeing Becky interacting with Breakker and Reed and Heyman, not just Seth when it's called for, or a temporary feud, with husband and wife. It's husband and wife. But there's also part of me that's I don't know, maybe Seth and Becky are better off picking their spots, keeping it fresh, and doing it even past the vision, being a faction. Because I don't think the vision's going to be around in 2 years or 3 years. I mean, I think this is a means to an end to get to somewhere else. So we'll see. But I agree with the chat that this was a fun change of pace, to see Becky going at it with Punk. Did Punk handle himself in a difficult situation well? It's awkward getting slapped and then deciding to, at one point he goes, I know where this is going, I just want to leave. And Becky wouldn't let him, because it was almost like he's like, I'm not going to sit here and make myself the bad guy by speaking more truth than maybe is appropriate to the wife without the man here. Although he did call, the man, I got to be clear, the Seth, without her husband there. It felt, I thought they navigated it well, but I thought there was a little bit of awareness that this could go awry too for Punk.
Yeah, and they wanted to be careful with that. And I think that's fair, because they don't try to dip too much into the intergender promos part. And I thought that this was a nuance to Darrell's point. This wasn't the typical, and that's why you're man, and then something about genitals or something like that. It was just Punk roasting her being so myopic and saying, you have a great career. You married a bozo. That's my only issue with you right now. Yeah, and that to me, I like that, instead of him trying to belittle her, or back in the 80s, you would have been like, little girl, why are you in here with me? All that stupid crap. Mm-hmm. I really liked it.
Darrell Freeman says Becky should be in it, and let's see how things play out, and then it'll be different from other WWE groups. All right, let's bring our first caller into the show, Sean Plichta from Tennessee, and we'll see what he wants to talk about tonight's show. Hey, Sean, welcome. Good to see you. Happy Labor Day.
Yeah, happy Labor Day to you guys. It's been a while. Rich, it's always fun being on with you, man. I don't get a chance to talk to you. It feels like ever. So unless I hear your show or hear you on the, the flagship or wherever it is. So it's good to talk to you, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. That's the double-edged sword of football coaching in the fall in the U.S. for high school, as I have my North Hills shirt on from practice, and then also having a son who does ice hockey. So I will be traveling when I'm not working. I'm traveling the United States and now Canada in December. I'm great, feeling better. Achilles is probably at 85%. If I could use the Randy ratio, I'm now able to do yoga without falling over, but it's still tough to do basic Olympic lifts without the balance. I'm working on that currently.
Nice. Yeah, it feels like I was thinking when I got on, I was like, man, it's been at least a couple weeks that I've been able to talk to you guys about some of the shows. I've been able to catch up, even when I was gone. But I think the show was fun today. I enjoyed it. It was fun being able to get on there at 1 o'clock and be like, oh, I can watch a show and be done by 6, 7 o'clock. This is pretty fun. The Becky Punk stuff was good. I definitely want Becky in the division. When I saw her yesterday, I was like, I want to hear her to be with them all the time, to see where they go with that, see the chemistry they all develop with each other. I will think the one thing I want to talk about first, going back to Jay when he came out at the beginning, which was a fun visual, him coming out, even though I think that's really all he is kind of right now. I just don't feel like other than that entrance, there's much to him. And I didn't like when he talked about, you're not going to mess with my family, but Jay, you waited a long time, man. You waited till he was about dead, and then you decided, well, I just think that makes them look really weak when they come out and say, well, the argument is, well, they have a match coming up, and you understand that. But if you
Sean, another key point, sorry to jump in, but remember Roman told Jay, stay out of my business.
He did.
And Jay addressed that at the beginning, which I was worried he wouldn't do, and he did. He said, should I have listened to Roman, my cousin, or was there a point where it crosses a line and I got to stand up for family? So I think what he did is he addressed the moral dilemma he was in, which I think he needed to do, and I actually give him credit for doing that tonight and not just brushing past it.
But I do, but the match was over, and like if it was during the match, yeah, you're not going to do it because he wants to not interfere in his match. But after he wins and he's celebrating for a while and then he attacks him afterwards, I don't understand where you would have the dilemma there.
But Roman was saying you got to look out for yourself and bringing gold back to the family. Don't put at risk. Rich, am I interpreting that right? Don't put at risk your health going into the main event match later in the night. I'll look out for myself. You look out for yourself. And Roman's advice, I don't have the wording in front of me, but it was like, focus on looking out for yourself. That's what we do. Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, because he even mentioned, you started this looking out for me, me being Roman. Mm-hmm. Then it was your brother. Then it was Punk, and then it's all these other guys. Because even when he said Punk, he had the look of disgust on his face, because that's another unresolved thread. I can't wait to see get pulled later. So I get it. And I mentioned this in the roundtable when we did the PLE. I think there was a limit to ridiculousness with that timing of the run-in. And him even explaining it on Raw didn't excuse it all. But there should have been some, if anything, this would have been a good time. And Wade's going to say this is terrible, so I'm prepared for it. This is the time for the unnecessary WWE angle that we don't need, but in this case could have helped, of seeing him conflicted in Gorilla, not go in and then go in. And it's like,
yeah, there's a way they could have told that a little bit better. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why do you think I'd say that's a terrible idea?
Because that's that third angle from the barbershop window that you don't necessarily need. Why would they be filming him in Gorilla at a time where his cousin's getting beat up?
I think they could have explained that. I think Cole could go, you know what? Where's Jay? Roman's getting beat up. And then Barrett can go, I believe we hear word he's in Gorilla. And then they show him. I mean, Gorilla's canon. And I think you could I think you could explain. My issue would just be if it was the first time they ever showed him in Gorilla and there was an explanation to show him, as long as there's a conceivable reason you'd film somebody before they're on TV, then I'm fine with whatever happens at that point. But there should be an explanation for why you're filming them. My issue is just showing somebody walking backstage for no reason for 3 seconds until something completely unexpected, quote unquote, happens, or someone makes it interesting by confronting them. You would never just show them walking for no reason, or the opposite at the end of an interview where they show someone walking after the interview's over. You're like, why are they showing them walking for 3 or 4 seconds? Something's about to happen. But the way it's framed to us as a viewer is there was no way to foresee that. And so that's what makes it fake. But as long as they literally go, Wade Barrett could go, where's Jay? He should be helping out. And Cole goes, hey, he's backstage. Let's go look. You could actually tell that story. And would that have satisfied you, Sean, better?
It would have been better again, and that's what I thought. Because with Jay, he's like the ultimate baby face right now, and it's like, okay, he's getting beat up for this long, and you all of a sudden, and it was too long. I mean, the beat down was cool because it got heat on them, and that's what I've been wanting them to get is heat, legitimate heat, and they did it. But it was just so like, oh my gosh, they're drawing this out, and then it looks bad when faces don't come out, no matter who they are. It's like this guy's getting beat to shreds. Like we need to do something to stop this guy, these people, and they don't. And so just give me some kind of background other than Jay feeling like, oh, should I have listened? Like, yeah, you shouldn't have listened because the match was over. He won. He's getting beat down. Do something to stop it. I don't care if you have a match or not. You're supposed to help your family in need. I mean, it wouldn't matter at that point to me.
Jay is a follower, and Roman is this macho guy who's a tribal chief setting rules for his family. You could say it's on Roman for having rules that seem a little absolute and ill-advised. Could you, Rich? Yeah. I mean, he knows Jay's a follower. Jay's just doing what he's hardwired to do. He's just hardwired to follow. I don't know if you want to, criticize a butterfly for not flying straight. Like they flutter around. Jay doesn't really. He just does what people tell him and tries to stay accepted. I don't know, Rich.
Yeah, it's one of those to me. It's Roman trying to be the positive toxic boyfriend. He's done so many mind games with Jay over the years that this is the one time he wasn't doing a mind game. He was legitimately giving him almost big brother or big uncle advice. And instead, his programming was conflicted. Like, do I listen to the letter of this or do I help him? Knowing kind of similar to what we see with Asuka being an absolute jerk to Io and Kyrie being the audience or understanding like scared puppy what's going on.
You could imagine Heyman berating Jay for not being there for Roman, and Jay's like, but Roman. And
yes, you could. That would be that would be great.
Yeah.
Hey, why'd you have to get hurt too? Jeez, now you're going to be out for a while. Dang, damn it. No, and even tonight, Darrell just brought it up, and you can bring it up here in a little bit. But he said, Jimmy, even tonight, it took a while for even Jimmy to come out. Like he did, but it took a while. Like they had already gotten beat down after a long match. They're getting beat down, and then Jimmy all of a sudden just randomly, it feels like forever comes out, and it's like, man, like that's your brother, dude. Come out and save him. Like, why are you waiting so long? They're getting crushed. It's just kind of weird,
Yeah.
And the thing about Roman too is, and I know I told you guys before, and again, I'm not going to go off on the segment because I got heat on Roman after he won. I know he got that contract, but man, like he needs to be around more. And now it's just this thing to get him off TV for another long time. The fans want Roman now more than ever. And I know, again, I get the contract, but dang, this is a story where to build to a Roman Seth match, I want him around more. And I just think now he's going to be gone for a while, and we're just going to have this slow build, forever. And I just think Roman should be on TV more than he is. He's a big star now, and fans want to see him around. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Roman has the leverage. He wants to be not traveling. He wants to be home. He wants to do his other projects. He wants to be with his family. If you have that leverage, take advantage of it. But from a WWE on-camera, TV product standpoint, and for the sake of the fans, I mean, I guess this would be when you balance it out, Rich, is some Roman better than no Roman? Because Roman has walk-away money. Roman is 40. He's like, I'll just walk away. I'm okay. I can do whatever I want to do. I got time freedom for the rest of my life. All you're trying to do is allow me to buy even nicer toys or pass along money to other people in my family who didn't earn it, but now they'll have it made from their 20s on. I mean, that's kind of the type of money he's getting now. So is it better to say yes to that and utilize him as a special attraction at this point? Or are you sort of bigfooting the people who are around every week by having them have to take a step back when Roman shows up? And so it sends the signal when Roman's around, he's a big star. So when he's not, you're watching the secondary stars pretend to be top stars. And that's always the trade-off when you do this.
I don't see it as, because they know the food chain. They all know Roman's the top guy, and they know he is that guy because he's earned that spot. So I don't feel like there's going to be any animosity. However, that's subject to change without notice based on, for instance, he had more leverage once he had that interest in line when he saw people booing Cody. And both of them are now leaving to do the Street Fighter movie. Only one of them got the soul-breaking beat down, and the other person just going to kind of disappear for a few months. I wonder, is this not just generational money for him, but it's also generational opportunities and money for his cousins and anyone else that's in the family that was in the bloodline? It's given a bit of another feather in the cap of Paul Heyman late in his career. And I think he has been the goose that laid the golden egg in his third iteration as a babyface. And so I think until he proves he's no longer worth the squeeze, let him have the juice.
Couple comments in the chat. Sean, Chris Vonner says special attraction status may really help Roman from getting overexposed to work for Undertaker with his many returns in the 2000s and 2010s. Darrell says Punk called. Oh, that was. Well, bring up. Punk called out Becky and Seth for not being on all the live tour dates overseas. So kind of on topic a little bit in the sense of, trying to time out everybody and have them not be overworked too much. Sean, back to you. What else?
Yeah, so going back to the women's stuff, I am intrigued by the Io Asuka stuff, even though it's not for some people, but I like what they've tried to do to get them kind of having, like, Io's trying to be still close to them, but Asuka's pushing away, and and then they brought up this guy that they were doing the Io Stephanie one-on-one match at WrestlePalooza, which I really liked that. I was worried they were just going to put a 4-way match or do some weird thing to get a random match between people, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm kind of worried. So when he said the one-on-one, I was happy. There's a dilemma for me. I'm kind of interested to see where they go. I'm assuming, even though Stephanie to me is the bigger star right now, I love Stephanie. I think there's a lot of potential, but I would almost have Io win, because I think Io's been, even though she's had the title, she's been a little underutilized. I would like Io to win the title, even though I wouldn't love Stephanie losing. But if they can build Io up for a while and have them build to the Io Asuka title match for a while, let them do a feud for a little bit, and then have Stephanie either win the Rumble and go to Mania to fight for the title again and win it. Because I want her to be built as a babyface up to win the title, not just have her win in a random match against Io, even though they have a little bit of history. What do you guys think about that? How do you think they're going to play that out? Where do you think it's going?
Yeah, Rich, where do you think they should go with that? And what do you think of the point Sean made?
Well, I think Sean has a good point. I think one of the things I've liked about Asuka's whole behavior in this, and how Io and Stephanie are kind of in there, and it's going to lead to a lot of bad feelings between Ripley and Asuka as well. Asuka isn't wrong that she's the most decorated wrestler on the roster as a woman. She's now throwing her weight around in a way that makes everyone uncomfortable. But I think that's fun because, much like Roman, we mentioned when he was a heel, she's playing some wild mind games. And it's just because she's using her friendly, like, I'm happy Japanese woman voice. I think until Kairi started adding the facial expressions, we lost a little bit of that. But when she got into Rhea's face and said, I am the most decorated woman on this roster, I'll push who I want. Well done. On the other side, Io has now proven she's the top dog in the women's division. Her and it's 1A, 1B, 1C when Bianca's healthy and Rhea's healthy. But now enter what's going on with Stephanie. I think Stephanie's a tour de force. She's one of the few women they've elevated in such a quick time that has taken to the main roster in the way she has. Part of that was Booker T kind of getting over the devil's kiss. Part of it was just her excellent wrestling. And so I want to see them. They could have done that at the PLE. That's my one issue. You already knew these two women had either beaten the champ or should have had a chance to beat the champ. Just make them the persons that wrestle for the title. They could have done that in Paris. They didn't want to do it. Now it's going to be on ESPN because of course it will. And so that gives them a bigger platform. I'm kind of happy all the way, especially considering this could be a great platform for Stephanie to kind of get put on a pedestal, so to speak.
Darrell in the chat says, Io's a bigger star, and it seems like they're building a longer story with one part Asuka and Kairi moving away, and then the mega powers of Io and Rhea joining. Then the second part is Io versus Rhea. So a lot of moving parts here. Derek Mitchell adds, if Asuka and Kairi weren't being used on TV, people would be complaining. I like that they're being used, and it will eventually lead to them turning on Io and hopefully lead to some good TV. Derek, just because people would be complaining if they weren't on TV doesn't mean they're not allowed to complain about how they're being utilized when they are on TV. That's a false choice. And TYS says, I hate how Michael Cole says, that was weird after each Io Kabuki segment. He's done it 2 or 3 times now. It feels demeaning to the story they're trying to tell. Now, my thinking is maybe he's commenting on the fact that the way they're portrayed as these shrieking, hysterical women is an old stereotype, and men aren't asked to act that way, although the Judgment Day sometimes do, but in a more dignified way, I'd argue. I might put it a different way, which is Cole is going, can we please let these grown women act in a dignified way instead of having them screech and yell? I actually think it's been better like tonight, and it was bad last week and the week before. I think it's gotten a little bit better where it doesn't just end with them, shrieking and being in hysterics, but it might be more of a commentary on the way that they're asked to portray themselves more than it's a comment on them. I maybe I'm giving them too much credit. What do you think, Rich?
I think some of that's also a commentary on America. Because anytime I watch Joshi or men's pro wrestling, it's like that. You can start talking, all of a sudden people's voice, they put the bass in their voice, they put more alto in their voice, and it just starts rising. If anything, I thought it would be helpful if they added subtitles so you could get the subtext of the fact that they in fact were speaking, like it's not gibberish, they're actually talking crap to each other there. And they did that. I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago where Io and Asuka in the middle of a tag match were saying stuff to each other, and they put the subtitles under it after the fact, and they're like, oh wow, they really were going at each other in a way that I didn't think people could on television. But because it was in Japanese, they I would also point to there's a comment when you get to it, it's a little bit of Asuka being way too controlling on the friendship status of everyone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that toxicity is starting to spread into the goings on of just passersby like Rhea, who I would take the moment to point out. I didn't point it out during the PLE, but the fact that she had to go on the social media and say, please don't show up en masse and basically rush me in a public space, because that is not safe and I don't feel comfortable. And if you keep it up, I'll stick to being Rhea instead of being like myself out in those situations. That wasn't cool. That was where the French crowd went totally left of field, and that was unsafe.
Interesting. A couple other comments I'll throw back to Sean regarding this discussion we're having. Derek Hubbard says, I hate how Asuka acts. I assume that is how I'm supposed to feel, but it's cringe-inducing. I think they need to remind the audience of what Stephanie Becerra is all about. She has been MIA for 3 weeks. Sadler version 3 says, I think doing EO Steph at Palooza is a happy accident since they can build the feud now. In Paris, it'd just be a random match, but now they can build a feud, especially the Asuka part. Ryan Solorio says, Asuka's acting like the serious traditional dad, Kairi the submissive mom, and Io trying to start a forbidden romance with Rhea. LOL. And Sadler version 3 says, my thinking is that it's easier to have the Japanese women over-emote and overact because it's easier for the audience to convey or understand their emotions, since promos can be tough for them sometimes. And I think that's part of it. I think they're saying, like Rich, you said, captions would be good. Maybe they're asking them to turn it up a notch so that we can read what their emotions are, since we won't necessarily understand, or they can't articulate in words in a way. They're trying to have them make up for it. But even if that's what goes on outside of WWE, in the context of WWE, it seems demeaning to me. Sadler version 3 says, I agree that it's demeaning. Just trying to guess what WWE is thinking with that. He just wanted to clarify that. Derek adds that Io, Asuka, Kairi, and Rhea dynamic is too adolescent girls in tone for my taste. In a perfect world, adults of any gender would not act that way. And Derek's kind of summarizing my thoughts there. It does kind of feel like, just middle school arguing, and it's not outside of the context also of just American men running companies telling women how to act on TV and what they think would be entertaining for their audience, or what is how, quote, women act when there's tension. But again, there's men who don't act particularly dignified either in their exchanges, but there's something about this that feels different to me and some other people in the chat.
Well, one thing I would gently push back on Derek is, we see this with Roman Reigns with CM Punk, like I mentioned earlier. Every time he brings up CM Punk, it isn't that CM Punk is this natively bad guy. It's he stole my manager from me. He stole my wise man away from me. And how can you trust a man that stole my wise man and not think about the fact that Paul Heyman has agency of his own to determine who he's going to hang out with and why. So it does show up on the men's side, but I think it's a little more subtle and more nuanced. With the women, it's usually more ham-fisted. And even when you think about Kairi, every time you hear her name now, she jumps and there's a laugh from the crowd. Mm-hmm. Instead of it being, this is terrifying. Why are your supposed friend making you agitated to even hear your own name?
Yeah. If we don't talk about the amplification of the way that they're telling the story, the over-the-top way that I think can be seen as demeaning or grating. I think you have an interesting dynamic of Asuka being, like you said, the pushy friend, controlling, Kairi trying to be the peacemaker, Io wanting everyone to get along, but being willing to stand up for herself. I mean, there's a lot going on there that I think is, I don't want to not give credit to the idea that this is capturing a complicated dynamic of people who have been together and aligned. And now there's, can you trust Asuka? Probably not. For sure not. She's up, she wants things a certain way and she's being a control freak. And I think that's interesting character for her instead of just saying, no one's ready for Asuka over and over again. So, I mean, there's something here. It's just, I think they could dial it down and get the point across. There's all kinds of theories on where this is coming from that we've talked about in the chat has had to say, but I think they were better tonight than they have been. So maybe they are kind of cognizant of that and shifting a little bit. Sean, back to you.
Yeah, because especially going back to when Derek said about Rhea. I mean, I think Rhea was fine tonight. I mean, I think she was trying to be just a woman about it, and Asuka just acted the way she was acting, and Rhea was just like, all right, you want to get in my face? I mean, we'll have something to say about it, but I mean, I'm just trying to do the right thing here. And so Rhea, and that's what's fun about the Stephanie really quick too. I want to say with Stephanie, that's why I wouldn't have her win the title right now, is because she's been all of a sudden just gone for whatever time it's been. I mean, she won the random battle royal, which I still don't love getting title shots that way. I wish there was a better way to go about it, but Stephanie is the big star in the future, but Io right now, they could do something with her with a title run that actually means something. Like, get the title on her and have it mean something. When she had the title the last time, it just didn't feel like there was a lot there. They were telling the other story, but they were just, Io as a title, as a champion, just didn't felt very minuscule. And do you guys feel where I'm coming from with that? The last title run she had?
Rich, what do you think?
I think the last run was fine. It was a little clunky, and I think some of that was the decisions they made in terms of what was going to be next, and then those being undone by the pregnancy. Not in a negative way by any means. And so because of that, I think it left a lot to be desired. With this one, if it were to happen, I feel like it has to be Stephanie, in my opinion, because if you're going to be on ESPN, it sets her up as the person that now Io can be pushed off to the side and feud with Asuka and company. And Rhea can then set her sights on Stephanie and make it into who's the true mommy. Again, to Derek's point, they only go into reductive stereotypes. So who is the true mother of WWE Raw in terms of the champion? And I think that'll help Rhea be a little bit more herself as she gets to kind of use the positive sexuality she brings to her character. Stephanie can do the same thing while also being tough women. And I think that might rehab her in a way some of the crap that went down going around her prior reign did. Does that make sense?
No, and that's, you brought up that good point about that. Like I'm with you there. That would be cool if they did that. I just like better build-ups to title wins. I just don't like somebody winning a title in a match and just not have something before that to make you really invest. I mean, we're invested, so that's the thing. I do like that the fans are invested in her already. They do like her a lot, and so that's cool. I hope if they put the title on her right away, have it, do Rhea, have it mean something, have it be valuable. Don't just give her the title and just kind of let her do her random stuff for a while and just not make it feel important. So that's,
I get what you're saying, Sean. I mean, the chase, take people on a journey when you don't know somebody really well. Anything else, Sean, you want to bring up?
Yeah, so going back to Dom and AJ, which was a fun match, I just still don't like when Cole at the beginning, when Dom attacks him before the bell, and he says it's a good thing to do. It's a smart strategy. I mean, when are they going to get away from that? I don't know why they think that's a good idea. It's stupid. It's smart, but he's a freaking heel. Get heat on him. Be mad about it. Don't celebrate it and think it's a good thing to do. I just don't know why they think that's a good thing to do.
And I agree with you, Sean. I will say this was mitigated slightly in the sense that it wasn't a pre-match attack. Well, it was technically a pre-match attack, but it was different than normal in the sense that Styles was getting that crowd reaction. And the way Cole phrased it is, it wasn't smart. I think the spirit of what he said is, I don't like pre-match attacks, but his quote was, it was a great move by Dominic to take Styles out of the moment. And I'm not defending it. I'm just saying it feels less what it usually is in something different, in that something special was happening. A title's on the line. AJ's getting buoyed by this amazing 6-minute, give or take, serenading by this crowd. and he was soaking it up. And I think, and Cole could have used better wording, but like Cole could have said, Dom clearly shaken up by the idea that this crowd reaction is going to give Styles extra inspiration, and it's gonna take Styles to another level. And Dom wanted to break that. Now, could they have? I mean, they can't really ring the bell and have Styles obliviously soaking up cheers. So it had to be a pre-match attack. But instead of, I think what you're saying, Sean, for sure is Cole isn't, one, he normally doesn't think that's a big deal. WWE doesn't. But number two, he wasn't cognizant of the fact that that happens in the past, and we've been critical of it, and people are critical of it. And so find a way to state it where it doesn't seem like something that's meant to get heel heat is now good strategy. And that's the baseline criticism is heels attack baby faces to get heel heat. And when you have the narrative of the company contradicting that, then don't do the angle in the first place. Don't have heels and faces, and go ahead, try it. But if you have heels and faces and you're going to do angles to try to get heat on heels, don't have a headwind needlessly brought up by the commentators justifying something, because you're taking a fire extinguisher to the heat the heels are trying to get. In this case, again, I disagree with it. I would have worded it differently, but I think where Cole was coming from was a little different. Rich.
Yeah, I think if he said something like, man, I hate that he did it that way, but AJ kind of opened himself up by listening to that crowd. The second he turned his back on a Dom after all the stuff they've been through, he gave a snake an opportunity to bite him.
Yeah, and Barrett could have said something. Cole could have said, I never advocate for someone attacking somebody before the bell. But if you're Dom and you get in his head, he thinks Styles is getting some extra energy powered up energy from this crowd. I can see why he chose to do it. And then Barrett could amplify that and go, oh, what do you mean? You're too soft in your wording. You're hedging. That was a great move. Let Barrett be the one who says it was a great move. But both of them should be playing into the notion that Dom did it because he's scared that Styles is going to get extra. He's going to have extra power because this crowd is motivating him so much. I mean, who wouldn't have extra motivation with that happening? And so instead it felt kind of generic pull string, nonsense, not kind of just rote announcing reaction to something where they're not even thinking about it. That's the way we do it. This felt different, Sean. That's all.
No, then that's fair. I wanted to say real quick too, in its mid-card, I mean, Dragon Lee's kind of been defining where he is, unfortunately. I mean, they just don't see as much as maybe a lot of people might have going in. Mm-hmm. But even though I like clean finishes and I like that they had more of those today, which was, they're at least getting in a better direction as far as that. I still don't, even though it's mid-card, I still don't love 50-50 booking, just having Dragon Lee beat JD last week and have Finn beat him this week. It's just like, okay, like where are we going with it? I know it's a mid-card. It's like not a big deal, but it's just, just back and forth, wins. It's kind of like, okay, what is it doing for any of these people? I mean, Finn's in Judgment Day, so it helps. He's got something he's kind of going where Dragon Lee just feels like he's just kind of there on TV, having a good match here or there. So I just want to hear if you guys thought about, anything about that, or if it's just mid-card, it's not as big of a deal, and it's like, just kind of do what you do.
Rich, what'd you think?
I thought the crowd made that, despite his being defined down, it made it awesome to watch that match. They were super into it. They really brought some energy. But I agree with you. The 50-50, they need to build people up. Like you were saying with the women's division, this would have been a good time to kind of establish a hierarchy, but they wanted to kind of go tit for tat.
Also, by the way, he's still...
and wait, I will say... Oh, I was on VIP too. Go ahead. No, you go. I was saying something after.
All right, I will go. There's a little delay in your audio or my audio, receiving your audio. When Dragon Lee looked ridiculous, and this is a luchador habit. It's predominantly them. He played to the crowd long after the JD McDonough distraction had already delayed his follow-up attack on Balor, hanging upside down in the corner. So he fends off JD McDonough while Balor's hanging upside down, and then he climbs the top rope, and then he plays to the crowd before going for a move, which then wasn't effective. And can you make a babyface look more foolish and undisciplined than to have them think the whole point is to get a crowd reaction more than win a match? It's just, and it's a luchador thing more than anything. I mean, it's Penta's, it's hard on Penta. People who love Penta didn't like I pointed it out, but it don't make it untrue that he looked foolish. And it's any wrestler who does it, and a lot of wrestlers do it, but it's like you just wait for that spot with the luchadors where the only way to have a move backfire isn't because the opponent's resilient, it's because they aren't disciplined enough to stay focused on the match and then get wrapped up in fan cheers. So anyway, I just want to point that, but it was a fun match, and my answer is I don't think it matters that much because Balor's and Dragon Lee are at a stage where they're sort of just out there to have a good match, even Steven, and try to establish JD as a pest, and that's it. I'm fine with that. I'm not gonna have a big issue with it. Rich, you want anything?
No, I think this was another way for, especially Finn with his contract, another attaboy for him. And he's clearly been his protege for years and years, even going back to training. So having him under his wing and doing the tag team stuff, but then still getting awesome singles matches with luchadors, which is something Finn loves doing when even going back to his juniors days. I think this is for him fun and knows kind of where he's at in the pecking order and doesn't mind it one bit because the check's clear.
Yeah. All right, Sean, anything else before we move on?
I just wanted to say, you were bringing up earlier if you did the Patreon. I don't VIP side, so I hope you did the Patreon to make those Patreon people happy. I hope, but if not, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what else to tell you, but I appreciate everything you guys do. Go VIP, everybody. I'll be in the chat. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Sean. Speaking of which, if you're not a VIP member, we welcome you to go VIP. The sign-up page is pwtorch.com/govip. Sign up with credit card, debit card, PayPal, Patreon, Spotify, or your Apple account. All the details and all the ways to sign up and the different tiers and benefits at pwtorch.com/govip. Don't forget, we're here live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with our post shows. And also Tuesdays after NXT. Kelly Wells, Nate Lindbergh, and that crew cover NXT. And we had Brandon LeClaire hosting Wrestling Night in America yesterday after Clash in Paris. So check out all our live streams on our YouTube channel, and please like our shows if you're watching us on YouTube. Comment below, and best of all, subscribe to our channel, and you can set up alerts so that you know when we go live. If you are listening to us on the podcast side of things, give us a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it. Please do. Hope we do in your the podcast app of your choice. Yeah, anyway, I guess that's and if you're not subscribing to our podcast, by the way, if you discover us on YouTube or you're just streaming our show somewhere, please do search Wade Keller in your podcast app, and you'll see a red logo show and a blue logo show pop up. Subscribe to both. The red logo show is the post shows, and the blue logo includes the weekly flagship and other great content. And then search PWTorch to subscribe to the PWTorch Dailycast and the PWTorch VIP free sample feed. You'll see 2 logos pop up. Subscribe to both. The PWTorch Dailycast feed is what has our pay-per-view and PLE post shows and the NXT post shows on it. It's not on the Wade Keller post show feed. So you do need to subscribe to that to get the PLE and pay-per-view access on our podcast format, along with a lot of other good shows that with great hosts covering specific topics. All right, let's bring Darrell Freeman into the conversation next, our next caller. Darrell, welcome. What is on your mind about this afternoon/tonight's episode of Raw?
How you doing, Wade? How you doing, Rich?
Good. D, how are you, man?
Guys, man? All right. I want to talk about the vision as a whole. I like today that they didn't have them come out there together. I like that you split the group together, because the vision right now is a group by name division that doesn't have a vision on what characters they want them to portray. So I like that they did this, and you had the Bronze taking up for Paul and coming out there and doing what they were doing, giving them something and allowing them to show their character a little bit more and talking on the mic. I like that Braun Breaker came back at LA Knight and the things that he was saying, and still pushing that unhinged Braun Breaker character. And I like the continuation of the Bronson Reed character. I think that they need to do this a little bit more, not all the time, but some of the time, and keep Becky in there, because I want to see what kind of character driven lead does this take them on. And did y'all like that they had them separated and both doing and focus on 2 different things, but still a group?
I'll throw this in and then throw to you, Rich, for comments on what Darrell says. But in the chat, Chris Fonner said, did tonight mark the start of a divergence between Seth and Becky and Reed and Breaker? That could be a nice twist. I feel like Reed and Breaker had a decent night without being overshadowed by Seth's antics. We got an email on that too we'll get to. So Rich, your thoughts on revisiting this topic from earlier with Darrell's comments in context?
I really like the idea that they can do their own stuff. Him saying Braun saying he was off the leash, and Bronson being in the Paul role, holding them back up to a point was pretty cool. And then seeing Becky and Seth doing their own thing, pretty cool. The more they can do that, like Darrell's saying, the more you're going to have an effective group. I think of it like, especially Heyman at the wheel with something like this, the triple threat in ECW when they were at their most potent, because you had sure, you had the franchise Shane Douglas. He was kind of the titular title champion. You had the tag champs, but you also saw them as kind of like doing their own thing while also doing crazy stuff. Like he had at one point Chris Candido tag team partners with Lance Storm. They hated each other's guts. That's a storyline off to itself while the Triple Threat had their things going on. You've seen it with the Horsemen. You've seen it with really good groups. The ability to multifaceted and multitask. You know, as long as they don't turn them into the million, what was it? The not the Millionaires, the mob themed Impact one that the Main Event Mafia.
Yes,
don't turn them into the Main Event Mafia and you're fine.
Yeah.
Because then you have Scott Steiner screaming for Jeff Jarrett every 5 minutes. And we don't need Braun Breaker to turn into that version of his uncle.
Yeah. All right, Terrell.
And yeah, I agree with that as well. But I like what they're seeing. And going back to that that first segment that came in, I like the back and forth between Jay and LA Knight. You had both of those guys, which they usually don't do, WWE as a whole, talk about what happened the night before and what that meant to them and why it meant something to them and where is it taking them now. That's why I like when Jay came out there and said, I'm not going to do a replay. It's in my head, but I'm not doing it because this is why I lost. I wanted to be here with you guys celebrating the title. I can't. And then he broke down the other stuff. And I like when LA Knight came out there. Then I like what LA Knight said to Jay and emphasized what Jay was talking about earlier and what Roman had told him that, yeah, you did this. You slipped up. We could have took out Seth. You did this. You worried about too many other things than doing what we should do to get what's needed to be done.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a way to build Jay's character, keep LA Knight going, and maybe this sprinkle them off into a matchup for whatever to see, as Rich was just saying, they give you the different layers of the main event scene right now, who's at a different level.
Yeah, so two things. One, there's way too much baby faces bickering with each other, but that doesn't mean each and every segment isn't defensible in isolation, or most of them, and it doesn't mean that there aren't different levels in terms of this was the time to do it, but sometimes it feels like it's too much, you know, and we've seen that with Rhea, for instance, a lot of this year. This was one of the better times, and it's for the things you're saying, Darrell. This was the opposite of John Cena, who just blows off what happened, moves on to the next thing. They're lamenting a loss. Darrell's nodding to me for everyone on the podcast side of things. Cena just blows things off. He's like, oh, I lost the title. Remember how I cared so much about that in the 4 weeks when I was trying to get you to watch the match? Well, now I lost it. I don't care. I'm moving on to other things. And in this case, they are lamenting their loss, and they're kind of revisiting their role in it. And this also really put a focus, Rich, on the world title being important. They're putting that ahead of trying to be nice afterwards, or, oh, it's too bad that happened. LA Knight was like, I wanted to walk out with the world title. Jay's like, my ribs are taped and I should have a belt here instead of taped ribs. So they're making the world title seem important. They're not sabotaging the company or being as self-centered as John Cena's been in his promos. And it has a lasting positive effect. So I'll take that as a positive that overrides, even though it's a trade-off, more baby faces going at each other, where the fans at home are like, we just want to like you. Why do you make us every week try to pick sides between people we like? That's not why we tune into wrestling. We get enough of that in the real world. Let us just like somebody who's facing someone we don't like. And that should be a higher percentage in Paul Levesque's booking than it is. But he likes to have the nuance and this is a better version of it. Rich, your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's the Levesque thing. He wants the shades of gray.
We don't use that term anymore, Rich. We can't. I'm calling out everybody.
He does. He wants to be
but
right
it means,
down the middle, like Bill Alfonso. He doesn't want it to be good and evil. He wants it to be, and we talked about this a few months ago on everything. He wants it to be prestige, like going on a very tumultuous season of Game of Thrones or the White Lotus, but they're not giving us White Lotus level acting,
exactly, or
and
situations.
So do that. It's like Waiting for Guffman. If you ever saw the Christopher Guest movie, where all these people thought they were really good actors, and they're so bad at their jobs they don't realize people aren't coming because they're bad at their jobs. And so same thing here. It isn't a disrespect to say I want to boo yay. It's actually the highest form of flattery. I want to go back to the basics of pro wrestling as I shake my camera. One of the things with Scott Steiner, Scott would always take things too far. and say things that were a little too off the cuff, but you knew whether he was a face or a heel. He would say some wild stuff. Same thing with Rick, honestly, whether he's in character or out of character. But you knew where they stood. Right now, Seth Rollins will say something that is scathing to the front of the audience and then start doing this to get them to sing along. That doesn't help anybody. But I do like you said, they're elevating that title. It isn't just seen as the title that Cody didn't want. It's now seen as its own legitimate entity. And I think that for that, they should be praised.
And I don't think this is a situation with the term used that we banned from the show, because it means, and the reason I banned the term is because it means different things to different people, and it's also a broad generalization for people who aren't thinking through their arguments to defend something that they actually can't articulate. So I'm challenging people to not use that phrase and instead explain it using different words, because we've lost track of what it actually means, and people just lean on it as a broad statement to defend some other version of wrestling that they actually can't explain articulately to me enough to make me understand it. You did a good job once you moved away from that banned term to articulate your thoughts. And this is a good example where I actually don't think it was Shades of Grey, because I don't think LA Knight had Shades of Grey. He was a stand-up guy who wanted to win a world title, and he was pointing out Jay's strategy cost one of them upsetting Seth. That's pure babyface. There's no Shades of Grey there. When two babyfaces argue, that's not two babyfaces in a Shades of Grey situation. It's two babyfaces who each had a selfish, a justifiably self-interest in an outcome that benefited them, but they have this complication, which is they also had a common interest to one way or the other get the belt off of Seth, because they both hate him. So to me, that's why I will defend this segment as an exception. Almost an exception to my policy of stop making people choose between baby faces, because they both were on solid ground as pure baby faces who just happened to be in a match where they couldn't serve in a united way one cause. And I don't want Levesque or anyone to say, oh, see, that's us doing Shades of Grey. That's not. Shades of Grey is when you have LA Knight from one week to the next having a constitution that isn't consistent. And he makes decisions based on the convenience of the booking, or to try to make it seem like we're at a higher level of complication, because we can't trust anyone to be guided by the same principles week by week. And I think that's a sad, cynical look at humanity in the world that leaks from politics and worldview into wrestling booking. And I think it's sloppy. This, I don't want to endorse it too much, because there's too many baby faces arguing. But this was, Rich, as you laid it out, an example of how to have two wrestlers who you like and can see both sides of it, and not come away thinking anything other than it's unfortunate they had conflicting interests while also sharing an overriding common interest in trying to dethrone Seth.
Yeah. So for me, when Levesque brings up the banned Shades word, it's essentially, and I'll use the big old jargon here, the antithetical that there always must be in existence an anti-hero. Or anti-villain, if you want to even go that far and start diving into like character creation. Yeah. That doesn't always exist. You don't always have a Steve Austin.
Yeah. And it wasn't here in this segment either.
Yeah. When you live in a world of Sami Zayn's, or you live in a world of LA Knights and Jey Usos, there are going to be times, like you said, where he clearly says, I got screwed. And then LA Knight says, you screwed me and prevented me. And CM Punk says, his wife screwed me out of the title. All three are right. All three were wrong in the match. And we talked about that during the PLE. The fact that Jey Uso signed up to give them the power bomb and then did the I'm going to listen to Roman, but he did it the wrong time. The story of Jey Uso has been, I want to be the boss, and I'm doing it in the way the boss told me to do it. The story of CM Punk has been, I am happy to be here until the one dude I still can't get along with won't stay out of my business, and I won't stay out of his. And LA Knight has been perennially the guy who's maybe as they say in England, the nearly man, almost the champion, almost at the mountaintop, and something always screws him up. And those three forces met an evil character that played them and used his wife as the plan Z. And I can appreciate as Michael Cole would, the complexity of that, while also saying you didn't earn the complexity on television. It was a trapdoor you created. Now you have the opportunity to build it out, but I want to see you continue to build it out. It can't just be, oh, my super hot wife's going to help me. when the other guys get banned from ringside, because now it's going to be ban all of the Vision, Paul Heyman, the Bronze, Becky, and their daughter, in case she decides to like pop in the ring and hit him with like a toy or something. Like, entire family's banned from ringside. Yeah. And now let's see where it goes. But I don't know if they'll get that far.
We know they have the power. Just if Braun and Brunson, if you return to the building, you're suspended and definitely in fined. They can do it, and you can do it preemptively. You don't have to wait till someone has their ribs broken. Okay, Darrell, we said a lot there. You want to add anything or bring up a different topic?
I'll add this. I agree with what you said about that ban term. I don't think it was that, but I also go against a little bit what you said as well about babyface bickering. I come from a background of comic book characters and anime characters and heroes bickering with each other. I got Batman always bickering with Gardner, and they bickering with each other. I got Vegeta always bickering with Goku. I got from the sports background, I got a babyface as in your number one team in Minnesota, Anthony Edwards, going back at the other guys who at the top of the charts. When you're chasing something, you should bicker when you're chasing something. And I like what you said, that they made the world title important. If you make it that they're chasing something, because it only can be one person at the top. It can't be two, it can't be three, can't be four. It only can be one person at the top. So we're bickering to get at the top. We're not bickering to just be bickering. That's the point that I don't think they know how to separate. Sometimes they make them bicker just to be bickering and not bickering to a goal or a focus. And we can be friends afterwards, like once our tour's over.
I'll add to this. A pro wrestling genre affords us a chance, affords the bookers and the wrestlers a chance to tell a story that isn't as frustrating and complicated as following your local sports team when two of your teammates who you've been cheering for are at each other's throats. Pro wrestling gets to eliminate that unfortunate aspect of sports some of the time, where Kyle Anderson and Rudy Gobert are punching, are arguing, and then Rudy punches him. Like, no, most fans don't want to see that. They just want their team to be in heart. WWE can book harmony among people with a common interest and a common principle. Now, this doesn't mean you should never do it. My argument isn't you should never do it. My argument is, and I say it every time to avoid misunderstanding, they're just doing it too much. I agree. It should be like, imagine, Darrell, in your case of your favorite sports team, if it happened all the time, the headlines, all the talk shows would be talking about the dysfunction on people who should be on the same page. It's normal now and then for there to be a situation where they're not. And also, anime and these other examples you gave, they're not trying to sell tickets to events where people cheer for the home team, the babyface, to win against a heel to get that peak experience for fans. Pro wrestling's peak fan experience is Sammy in Montreal, Cody's journey. Those are the big moments, and Levesque is losing sight of that's why people bought these tickets months ago, and they're riding this wave of popularity. It's because of that kind of storytelling. Now's not the time to lose sight of that or to think it was something else. So don't overdo it. Pick your spots, and when you do it, don't have ambiguity with the characters. Make sure that it's clear that the baby faces, even during bickering, are standing for something. They're each standing for something that you can agree with, rather than being the anti-hero or a person who doesn't have a constitution guiding them, and they just sort of blow with the wind based on what's convenient for the booking or to seem controversial, in just some, hack way.
I totally agree. Yeah. I totally agree. And I feel like there shouldn't even be, in this day and age, they shouldn't even be anti-heroes, because they don't even portray anti-heroes too much. Yeah. Like that, even more. They have to portray them as good or bad. Look at the Deadpools and all the different types of stuff. They just portray them a certain type of way. Just have a goal. That's what I'm saying. They don't have them talk about the goal too much. And to go on to my next thing, that even show, like with y'all was talking about with EO and Stephanie Valkyrie, that next match, I feel like the title should go to Stephanie, because what they're missing in building characters and making people care about characters. You hear her off TV. If you feel like she's a star, let's see what she do. Get the title. Let's see what she run with it. take the title away from EO and Rhea because it's been locked in with just those two for the past year and a half, almost 2 years. You got you somebody new who seem like they can beat somebody. Let's see what they can do with new challengers and add new things, because that'll show you have what 3-4 different women main stories that they're pushing on TV on a constant basis. That then you can see who be seen as a bigger star. And once you start getting people to be seen as bigger stars, it should make it more easier for you to have those matches and not make it so people have to bicker.
Yeah, that last couple lines were so key too. When you are protective of portraying your top stars as clearly defined people who you have a very consistent and nearly 100% unified opinion on. And we had that with Cody early on with his journey. We certainly had it with Sam. We've had it with Jay earlier this year and late last year. When you have fans uniting behind somebody in a positive way, and then also uniting with somebody against somebody in a negative way. And by the way, Seth Rollins doesn't, it's pointed out when he plays to the crowd singing his song, they're enjoying singing his song, and he doesn't push back on bringing fans enjoyment. It feels like this meta ego trip, and it's this communal experience that is bigger than his character that he doesn't want to undo. So when you lose sight of that, it makes it harder. But when you stay focused on there's a baby face, there's a hero, protagonist, antagonist, and we're going to consistently present them in a way where we get the consistent emotion out of the fans. And this is the biggest thing of all, we portray them as megastars. Like, we do not demean them. We don't have them, like Rhea, I think, has been hurt by the way she's been portrayed this year. She showed weakness. She showed a weird confusion over how contracts work. When you have big stars, you can mistake other things you're doing for the reason you're succeeding, but it is the portrayal of big stars in clear-cut roles that I think is a driving force. And Chris Fonner in the chat says, Rhea is aimless without the title right now. She needs a big course correction. Rich, do you agree with me that the number one ingredient, regardless of your philosophy on heels and baby faces and whether that should be the formula, it is WWE's formula in too many ways to ignore, to diverge from that too much, but is picking some people and portraying them as huge stars that you want to pay to see and be in their presence. They're rock stars. To me, that's still the number one thing. And AEW could learn from that too. It's not Tony Khan's specialty. Tony Khan, it's you become a star because you're a great wrestler. But WWE says, we pick you. You have to have a certain level of ring acumen and promo ability. There has to be a baseline, but we push people based on whether they seem like they have that something special, and then we amplify it through our machinery.
Okay, so I got 3 quick things. First, to wrestling, and then I'm going to nerd out and come back to wrestling. To your point, I think about there was something in the chat about Indianapolis and the ticket prices. I thought about Peyton Manning and Mike Vanderjagt, where you had the Colts. They had issues in the playoffs. Vanderjagt goes on a local radio show and he talks about, I don't know, we got to run the ball more. 18 just seems like he can't get it done. That gets to Peyton. They ask him at training camp or like mini camp right before they get to training camp. And he's like, I don't think you guys need to hear about our idiot liquored up kicker. And he didn't show back up. Wow. That's when Vanderjagt was gone. And so you can show I have a version. There's always main character syndrome. And I think when you have a striated level of who's the top and who's the bottom faces and heels, you can see if a big face is going up against a little face and that one person thinks they're the main character, they might get smashed down. Think about Zack Ryder back in the day. No matter what he did, he went up against Cena and there was a nice ceiling right there waiting for him. And then Kane was kind of the Deus Ex Machina to literally shove him out of the way. And then to your point, I think it makes sense to have that. And the third part that brings us to nerddom, Darrell is right, but I think you're right. Darrell's right when he brought up Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z. But when you look back when we were watching that in the early 2000s, the highest rating for that Cell game saga was like 300,000, 350,000 viewers. So like we were like TNA Mecca. We were small but mighty. But Vegeta is a great example of a character who, even as a heel or a face, has a fatal flaw that exists in both worlds. His arrogance. In the Cell games, when he went up against Cell, he had the guy beat. So if there's a pro wrestling match, he has the guy ready for a 1, 2, 3. He has to take a page out of Game of Thrones. He's dancing around the mountain. All of a sudden, the dude absorbs Android 19, and now he's perfect Cell. Vegeta has to cry as he gets murdered. Like, for wrestlers, you need that fatal flaw. You need the Jey Uso that cares too much. He needs to not listen to Roman. And his heart on his sleeve can always be his downfall. CM Punk is Marty McFly from Back to the Future before the car accident. Anytime someone says the right word to set him off, face or heel, he's going to just dog on a bone. He's relentless. You need to look at John Cena. John Cena is the dudes from Men in Black. Anytime he has a title loss, he mind wipes himself. I guess I'll fast forward it for this younger generation. He basically is Severance. There's an inner and outer version of John Cena. The inner version,
Innie and outie.
Yeah, the Innie version doesn't care about the title. He's running around. He's doing the hand stuff. The outie is counting his checks in the days until he can concentrate on doing like movies. And so as you look at these characters, or a Logan Paul, as much as I dislike the human, the wrestler is a phenom because he shows to the crowd he does the work, not just in the ring, but as a heel. He's not looking, even though he does flashy moves, he's not looking to be cheered. He's looking to do those to spite you. You didn't think I can do this? Watch me do a Phoenix Splash perfectly. You didn't think I could have a match with John Cena that's one of the best matches in his final 6 months of his career? Watch me do it and then brag about it on social media while I'm also saying 10,000 other egregious things. That's what they need to focus on instead of the banned word of look at, alas, poor Horatio, I knew him. You don't need that stuff. Don't go too big. Don't go over your skis, I guess, as the old phrase goes. Yes. They're Jesse from Breaking Bread. That is exactly who Jey Uso is. He is the guy that no matter how many times Walter Wright screws him, he's still going to get in the car and still drive to the house. And I'm not going to go any further in case someone hasn't seen Breaking Bad and they're in the midst of a binge and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yes. Very good. All right. Drell, anything else? Any closing words?
Last closing words would be just, where do y'all want to see that women's title go to? I know y'all was speaking on it briefly, but again, I want to see it go to someone new. I want to see what she can do with it and what can you do to continue to build that stardom. Like you saying, Wade, I think they're forgetting how to continue to build those stardom. You had her hot, you done cooled her all the way off. Let's see, can you build her back up? Let's see if we believe that she can be on the EO and Rhea Richter scale and up there with them, because they need somebody, because that's what Naomi just did. Naomi made people care about that title because she was building that heel character up to make people care about it and to care about who she faced. I want to see, can you make her, who people were caring about, but you took it away, can you make them care about her again and care about who she faced? Because the thing about having a star, stars make you care about what they do.
Yep.
The Alabama team just lost. People care if Alabama lose or win because they care about that team, and that team has become a stardom. That's what you do, and they bring other people up, and that makes you start thinking. Now, Florida State, who was drifting off for the past few years, especially since Bowden went away, now you're putting back an interest in those guys, and they have just made that quarterback into a star. That's why he's coming out now talking his trash. Now people gonna be following him and seeing what he did, because he pulled off of their stardom, and it didn't dwindle Alabama stardom. It just make people looking at them even harder while they looking at him at the same way. So I want to see what they do with their women's title, and I feel like adding that to Stephanie back here, you can do that, and then you maybe can bring a potential matchup for her at the Rumble, where you can bring a Blake Monroe up, and she could probably maybe upset her. And now you just, boom, you just got you another main roster star who just up there to put up there with those two, and she'll probably be up there with those three. And now you got a four, and then whenever whoever you get come back who already a star, boom, with Becky, who's a star, and she pulling people up, and obviously she might have AJ Lee. So boom, that's all I was just trying to see. Where do y'all think that should go?
Rich.
I think they should start with Stephanie, especially if they're going to have it crowned at the ESPN pay-per-view. That is great worldwide acknowledgement that this is a new young star we're building around, while also highlighting some of the other women in the roster. I think if they have a package that shows the ESPN audience, this is what the WWE women's division is, as opposed to the cheesecakey, Bella-filled, Note that we haven't mentioned it yet. Nikki Bella got booed tonight when they showed her backstage. And so at this point, show the athletes. Don't show the cheesecake. It's clear at this point, folks are here for the right reasons, so to speak, with the wrestlers. They're not just the fantasies of Vince McMahon anymore, or the folks that break through despite his fantasies. And then from there, if it is going to eventually be Rhea, make her earn it, give her a path, give her a story, give her a journey. If it's Io, same thing, and that journey starts with Asuka. And then if it's some of the other returners, like Psycho Bailey or whatever else is going on, let them kind of bubble up to the top. Don't just microwave whatever you have planned.
Very good. Darrell, thanks so much.
No problem, Wade. And just one last thing, Wade. Like you said about the Netflix, it should have been about Rhea Ripley. If they do the wrestling palooza and they make that about the new star Stephanie Becky, they can make up for the mistake that they made, that you called them out on every time about. You should have made this about a new star and telling everybody how important that is. So hopefully they do that. But thanks. Nice talking to y'all today.
Appreciate it. Glad Darrell brought up that point at the end there, Rich. I think there's a difference between Rhea and Vickers. They haven't done as good of a job with Vickers as they did with Rhea. In terms of the audience has very little to work with in terms of bonding with Vickers at this point, because she hasn't been featured on TV in that ramp up. She just hasn't had the ramp up. Vince McMahon over the decades was very good at ramping people up. He knew, I think this person might be a star, and he'd ramp them up step by step by step, introduce the audience to them, hit some talking points over and over, to the chagrin of some people, like, okay, we get it. And he would, go a little further than some people wanted, but he had the 95% of the audience in mind, not just the 40 to 60% who watch all the time and remember everything and complain afterwards once they think they know. They don't want them to mention it again because they think it's all about them. Vince would upset them, but then, maybe take it a little too far sometimes. And that just hadn't been done with Vickers. Like, there was a question in the Fix Mailbag last week about it. Like, is Levesque doing as good of a job introducing new characters as Vince McMahon did, even if there's things about Vince that we can complain about in terms of some of the way the characters were dumbed down or cartoonish, whatever, but treated in a sexist way, racist way, all that. But like the structure of ramping people up to the fan base is something Rhea Ripley had a long journey on going into the Netflix debut. Vickers just hasn't had that. Vickers is a hardcore favorite, but on the main roster, I just don't think that they've done enough to establish that she needs. So in principle, generically, I agree with Darrell says, but I also don't think going to ESPN on a PLE is nearly as big of a deal as going on Netflix for Raw. And I think WWE needs to stop acting like WWE fans are fans of WWE. They don't care about how much money they're making and their rights deals. And the only difference between being on ESPN or Peacock is what app they click before they push play. WWE's new money. They're too giddy. They're spending too much. They're a little better tonight on it than last night. But it's time for WWE to stop marking out for every new brand that they're associated with, and just convey the facts. Here's how you watch our show. It's a new way. You can have a passing line. We're excited to be affiliated with ESPN, but don't act giddy like this is a validation you've always been looking for. I wrote this in my report last night on PWTorch on the pay-per-view when they did this. So I'm throwing in multiple things here. I don't think going to ESPN is for PLEs is the moment that Darrell wants it to be, or is framing it as. It's not the same as going to Netflix. Netflix was going from cable to streaming. This is just going from streaming to streaming. And it might reach a different audience, but it's still just streaming. So, some of it will be different. Go ahead, Rich.
I would push back and say it's just streaming, but it's streaming with those 4 letters. And you've seen Seth Rollins do interviews where he talks about, as a performer, that sort of validation being on ESPN. So as much as you're saying the company like TKO is kind of sucking the marrow from the bone of going into ESPN business, even if it's just the app, I think the wrestlers themselves see this as vindication, or as similar to what I was talking about before when I talk about the history of Nick Khan as an agent. This is a way for them to be seen as not just pro wrestlers. And so that's a way where, back when they did the WWE Network and Punk raised his hand and said, how do we get distribution of wealth? How are we still handling the houses? And no one else asked that question. It was crickets. This is their way to feel an otta boy and an otta girl, which clearly, as you say, isn't really what it's supposed to be. But for them, they feel like it is because ESPN, much like WWE, has done a great job of selling that they're the end all be all, despite them doing literally the same thing. Stephen A. Smith and Paul Heyman do the same thing. It just happens one of them's done it for 30 plus years in a ring, and the other's done it 25, 30 plus years on TV when it came to sports teams.
And my issue is I'm fine with wrestlers seeing as validating, but I don't think the TV show and WWE to their fan base, when their fan base is watching, should act like it is a gift and a validation that ESPN accepts them. I think they should come across like ESPN needs us. They paid us a ton of money. We're bigger than ESPN. We're actually producing a product. ESPN is just a studio broadcasting things. They're just pointing a satellite truck, so to speak, at things. Is ESPN a brand? Do they have some personalities? Yes. Are they synonymous with, the history of cable? Yes, all that. But to a WWE fan, they don't want to see WWE acting like, oh my God, she looked at me. Maybe she likes me. Like in a high school, or middle school, like, oh my God, she looked at me. Maybe she'll date me. Like WWE is just so pathetically giddy about every deal they have. Just be old money, not new money. That's my thing. New money can't wait to show off their jewelry and their cars and brag about their vacation. Old money just goes about living a lavish life and they don't flaunt it. And WWE just feels like giddy new money that old money looks down on. And I think they should be more dignified about it. It doesn't mean you can't frame it as a good thing. Just tone down the giddiness, and also don't overestimate how much the audience wants to know about how much more money you're making in all these deals. Also, wrestlers seeing it as validation, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they should. I mean, just these sellout crowds are validation. The reactions they're getting, the fact that ESPN paid them so much money should show that they didn't need validating. But I get some people are marks for ESPN, so that's going to come through. In this segmented world, it's like NBC carrying Saturday Night's Main Event was a huge deal. I think Netflix carrying Raw was a big deal, even if the audience hasn't really grown to the level they thought. But anyway, Rich, I push back a little bit on you. Do you want to anything I say resonate? Or
yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I would say Seth, I wanted to get his direct quote, because he says this is huge for the industry, a huge step for us. It legitimizes what we do. And I've had a wrestler or two respond to me with, let's just say, not the highest of thoughts about Seth saying that, because it's like your work should legitimize what you do. The praise of your coworkers should legitimize what you do.
Exactly.
Going on after First Take should not legitimize what you do.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Jarrett was so giddy back in the early TNA days going on like Sports Center, and TNA had more viewers than Sports Center. Like, I mean, they did, it's just like, it's not that, it's just, I don't know. I mean, they want to make them, I get some of this. It's just like, we're a big deal. We've never been a bigger deal, but it does come across a little pathetic. Derek Mitchell says, I think this generation of wrestlers grew up on ESPN, so I understand why they think it's important. But he also adds, I understand what Rich is saying, but WWE feels like, yes, she said yes. And that's the part where I just think they should be past that. Again, it sounds absolutist to me. I'm not saying they shouldn't tout it. I just think they're just going too far, and it's unbecoming. It makes them seem like, oh my God, she said yes. Yeah, as Derek put it. Okay. I want to wrap up here in the next couple minutes. I'm a little bit up against the clock, but Rich, what other segment? Oh, you know what? Let me do this. I mentioned the email earlier. Let me read that first, and then you can think about a topic you want to bring up, a topic or two to close with. Cavanti says, tonight's episode was solid. I'd love to get your thoughts on Braun Breaker and Reed's promo segment with Knight and Jay. I've been low-key worried. WWE's booking has been making Breaker a one-trick pony, building up only to his spear while not nurturing his character work and mic work. Tonight, someone addressed that, letting Breaker and Reed flex their verbal skills without Seth and Heyman shadowing them. Yes, it was, and I mentioned this in my report. I hope everybody is breaking from social media and checking out what I'm saying about these TV shows as I live report on them on the website. I liked Braun Breaker having a chance to talk without Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman being option A and option B. It was like nice to see him have to carry a segment. And someone in the chat had said this earlier, I don't know if I'll track it down, that they thought maybe Bronson Reed outshined, even though he talked less, Braun Breaker. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I liked it. I know we had some folks in the chat mention it, but it was my equivalent of like Baby's Day Out. They had no guardrails. They didn't have Paul to step in. They didn't have Seth to step in. And I like the characters having so much character. I like Bronson being the kind of silent assassin, but his promo was magnificent when he started to, Cavanti
in the chat, I just put up, I think Reed is starting to outshine Braun on the mic. So
yeah,
emailers, the chat guy,
because Braun is going more towards his uncle, with the he won't necessarily, because someone in the chat had mentioned like late stage Scott Steiner, where he called everyone fat. Just that's what he did. Different time, that wasn't cool then, but that's what he did. But with Braun, he says a lot that's under his breath that now becomes picked up by the mic. And I like that part of him because it shows he's unhinged, and you could see the rough edges that Heyman's trying to sand down under this tutelage, but they're still there, and there's triggers that are still there. And so that I like, but I don't like him just breaking down like, well, you're just a stupid poopy face. Like you can see the veins, and it's like the Steiner in him just refuses to let it like go. And then on the other side, the bombast of Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. I did not anticipate being associated with Seth would make Becky a better heel. She's a better heel than he is right now because she's reinforcing his points without leaning into the music in any of the other parts.
Sadler version 3 in the chat says Seth wants to be the cool heel, unlike Becky, who was actively trying to get booed. Another comment, Sean says Seth's a really good heel, but man, the music hurts with people chanting his name. And Chris Fonner says Seth's wrestling IQ has taken a huge hit. He should be demanding his music be changed and have some change to his personality and eccentricities. I think you're right, Rich. Becky is a better heel spokesperson to get Seth heel heat. She's more focused. I don't like when people group Becky and Seth in the same realm. Becky changed her music. Her husband didn't.
Mm-hmm. And I really liked the way that she addressed Punk without dressing him down. In a very old school, like I said before, ECW way would have been his manhood or things like that. That worked. They didn't. I really love the fact this is the first feud Punk's been in a while where there were no AEW references.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just these guys don't like each other. They're both from Chicago, and they both see themselves as the king of Chicago.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
Rich, anything else from the show do you want to bring up? We certainly haven't covered every segment on it.
Yeah. That's what everything's for, Wade. I would say the only thing I would add in is I was at, and I'll go into this more probably on everything.
Yep.
I chuckled way too hard at the existence of Grayson Waller and the New G'day. Like the fact that they are leaning into him. There was a show, Wade might not have seen it, but I think Derek Durrell and some of the others in the chat might have. There was the Wayans brothers TV show on WB. The first 2 seasons, they had a character that later got written out called White Mike. And it was because like every other Mike they knew was black. So White Mike was the guy that like would always show up and say some crazy things. He's the White Mike of the New Day. Yeah. And I like that because he's not trying to do things like Vince McMahon trying to make him join the New Day would darn near put that man in blackface and have him say like African-American vernacular English. Instead, he's just being this goofy Australian guy that they are starting to glom onto because he's proven his worth. And the New Day, even in their new theme song, again, going back to Seth Rollins, it's taken all of their accomplishments and turning them into, we're the best tag team around, so we don't have to prove anything to you guys anymore. And the fans hate it because, yes, they can make that argument in WWE logic, but the absurd hat that Penta broke, all the other things for their funeral for losing the tag title, they're silly, but they're also still heels, and they also know that's about where they want to be right now. So I thought that was a perfect storm of adding those 3 guys together.
Sadler version 3 says, LOL, the White Mike reference. That is awesome. Kavanti says, interested in seeing where the Grayson and New Day situation is going. BJF says, I liked when the crowd was chanting for Big E and Grayson Waller on the apron, pointing to himself like they were chanting for Big G. Well, there's something with Waller. Durrell says, Waller being who he is and adding his style to the New Day adds something different than Big E, but also helping New Day after WWE dropped the ball, I assume, on his heel turn. So yeah, fun stuff. Okay, Rich, anything? Oh, I already asked you if anything else. I will throw a couple comments up about ESPN as a follow-up from the chat. And I might get sidetracked if I see something else I want to put up here. Chris Fonner says, pining for the respect and admiration of ESPN and corporate entities is distracting and draining the passion from the product. Derek Mitchell says, to be fair, ESPN is struggling with their popularity, and fans have turned away with personalities like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee. Four Eyes Malone just says flat out, ESPN is such a joke these days. Skip Bayless, Stephen A., social media, hot take culture is all they want. And yeah, I mean, to me, WWE should act like we're giving ESPN the rub and that's all I'm asking for. We covered WWE. ESPN's. I've been to ESPN studio. I kind of interviewed there once, and it's just it's a bunch of people in suits who are scared for their jobs, and looking at the chart of where they fall and what their ratings are and how to get more TV time. And I've seen hosts when they're not on camera and they just look like, I mean, it's not all of them, but they're like just fidgety and nervous looking. And then the camera comes on and they're all confident. It's like they're just a bunch of human beings in a building. And it's this brand, and WWE acts like it's like, again, like the cute cheerleader at school who you've been longing for since elementary school. It's just like, just grow up and have some dignity about all this. ESPN is not what they're. So anyway, they were better tonight. So I had more of a rant to me if they went like they did over the past couple weeks. And I understand you want people to know you're going there, and you also want to make it seem like it is a big deal. I mean, I get that. Just don't cross the line. Charles Four Eyes Mullen says, like Charles Barkley said about ESPN, they're going to work you like a dog. LOL. Yeah. All right, Rich, I could go on. Let's wrap up there. I'm against the clock for a couple of reasons here. Thank you. Darrell. So Wade, you're saying ESPN is more like old WWE having their people walk on eggshells. Why? It's been years since I was over there. I mean, I don't want to generalize. I'm just saying I was around. They're just humans, and when the suits come on, they go in character. When the cameras are off, they're just sitting there fidgeting, worrying about their tie and looking around like Sami Zayn is worried about, I don't know. They're building it up too much. All right, Rich, thank you. You mentioned everything. Let's encourage people to go VIP. You can actually get a free trial through Patreon with a VIP membership. Just go to either Patreon or Spotify and enter PWTorch VIP, and you get a 7-day free trial, unlocking all of our VIP exclusive shows. And the cool part is the free podcasts that go up on that feed are commercial free. So you don't have to listen to commercials or fast forward past them or whatever you do. You can fully just enjoy the content in a streamlined fashion, but you also get a lot of exclusive shows. Alan Foyle's Pro is Paradise, Greg Parks Out Loud, Wade Keller Hotlines, NXT 8 Years Back, so on and on. And tomorrow, Rich, you and I will follow up on anything here on Everything with Rich and Wade. So if we have VIP members who are listening to us or people who are about to sign up, and you have any follow-up on anything we've talked about today, email us and let us know. You can always reach me at wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. Rich, thanks again. We'll talk to you, if all goes as scheduled, tomorrow night for Everything for VIP members.
Thank you, Wade.
You bet. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon/evening. I think we're officially in evening now.